Welcome back to the California Conversation. I'm Tess Abraham. There's a shocking new poll out of California that is showing a major shift in voter sentiment in our deeply liberal state. What is leading to this change, and is it a result of the quote-unquote Trump effect? This is genuinely the best topic that I could be talking about, and I'm so excited to get into all of it with you today. But before we get started, make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so that you stay up to date on all things California politics. A brand new poll released just last month shows that voters across the state are becoming more and more discontent with the leadership in our state and are more likely to vote for something different. The poll was conducted by David Wilson, who is a lecturer at Columbia University, and he surveyed voters who are likely to vote in the 2026 midterm election. What were the questions that they were asked, and what are these shocking responses? First up, 48% of those who are polled say that they are considering voting for a Republican for governor in 2026.
That is so cool.
That is wild. That is significantly higher than previous years. For example, in the last midterm in 2022, Republican support was only at 25 to 36%, depending on which poll you're looking at and what time the poll was taken. So to have nearly half of Californians saying that they would consider voting for a Republican is a major increase. Plus, this completely blows up actual voter registration. In 2024, only 24% of voters in California registered as Republican. So now there's another 25% of voters saying that they would be willing to break with their party affiliation for the 2026 midterm. What is contributing to this change in voter sentiment? The way I see it, it all boils down to the fact that our leaders in government are no longer listening to the will of the voters. So the leaders in government, who are mostly Democrats in California, have taken some wild stances in policy positions, and they have refused to change position over time. And like I've said before, the longer that bad policy is in place, the easier it is to see the direct results of that policy. So now voters are realizing the downstream effects of the policy positions that our government has enacted, and realizing that they've been harmful to their lives and they want something different. What are the issues that I'm talking about? First up, as always, is cost of living. 71% of those polled believe that our Democrat leaders have not done enough to address the high cost of living across California. And they're not wrong. Think about the economic policies that our government leaders have put into effect across our state. Think of minimum wage. We've continued to increase the minimum wage so much that we're one of the states with the highest minimum wage across the country. And do you remember just last year when it was approved in the legislature to raise the minimum wage for fast food workers up to $20 an hour? That has real effects on inflation, on the economy, and on job and business growth. Then there's rent control. Nearly every major city has caps or limits across California on the rental rates that landlords can charge to renters. Plus, we've talked about so many initiatives that the California government pours billions, literally billions of dollars into that haven't seen results, like with the homelessness programs that we talked about just last week. And of course, we cannot forget that California pays for the healthcare of illegal immigrants across the state.
What?
Which we will get into further in just a minute on how voters really think about that. So voters are right to say that our state hasn't done enough to address the high costs of living that they are facing every day. Just because a politician says we'll raise the minimum wage and it will give you a living wage, or we will cap the rental rates and so now housing will be affordable again, now voters are seeing just because they say that doesn't mean that it's necessarily true. Actually, a lot of these policies have the direct opposite effect when it comes to economic stability, inflation, and just overall cost of living. But then outside of cost of living, there are many other issues that voters are moving away from as Democrats continue to run toward them. For example, according to the poll, 73% of voters support fully funding Proposition 36, which you'll remember was passed back in November and was an anti-crime bill. Gavin Newsom and the Democrats in our legislature came out against it. They wanted to pass other bills in order to kill Proposition 36 and remove it from the ballot. Now, Proposition 36 has been passed and it has been put in place, but there are reports saying that it's severely underfunded. So what this poll is saying is that 73% of likely voters want to see Proposition 36 fully funded. And that makes sense because if voters already voted for it and voted to pass it in our state, then of course they want it funded. They want the outcomes that they truly voted for.
That makes sense.
People are tired of rising crime. People are tired of shoplifting. People want to feel safe. And so they pass this proposition in order to feel those things again. Democrats not addressing rising crime, Governor Newsom being against bills like these, might just be the nail in the coffin for them when it comes to voters waking up and realizing they might need to make a different choice in the upcoming election. Going back to the poll, 72% of voters also believe that homelessness has not improved under Democrat control. And that's just true. We looked at that last week. You should go check out last week's video if you haven't already. But our state has spent $24 billion on homelessness initiatives to build housing for people and get people into affordable housing. And it just has not worked. And again, this is an issue that people are seeing with their own eyes. People are seeing the homeless population growing across California. You can't run away from it or say that it's not happening. The same with theft. People know what they see, they know what they experience, and they want change. Then, interestingly, 62% of those polled support a full investigation into the LA wildfires. This is in response to so many allegations of our government leaders not being prepared, not taking emergency action, of running out of water in the fire hydrants. Trust in our government ultimately is at an all-time low. And so people want accountability. They want answers. They don't trust anymore when the government says, oh, we were prepared, but things just didn't go the right way. It was just out of the norm. People don't want that. They want our government leaders to be able to own up to where things went wrong and then to make change. But if you don't even own what issues happened in the first place, you're not willing to change anything. So that's why many voters actually want there to be an investigation, and they want to be able to say, this is whose fault it was, and these are the actions we're going to take in the future to make sure it doesn't happen again. Then, circling back to an issue I brought up earlier, 60% oppose free healthcare being given to illegal immigrants.
Don't do it.
This is another issue that California Democrats and Governor Newsom have been willing to go to bat for. They are willing to spend your taxpayer dollars paying for healthcare for people who are in our country and in our state illegally. And the voters are not with them on it.
Just stop. Just stop doing it. You're going to drive me crazy.
The entire concept is ridiculous on its face. You should not be using taxpayer money to be paying for the free healthcare of anyone, let alone people who broke the law to be here. And the fact that voters are saying that they don't want this just confirms how ridiculous it is to people who are using common sense. The simple message is clear. People want you to stop wasting their money. Stop wasting money on homelessness initiatives. Stop pretending that certain problems don't exist, and stop wasting money on programs like paying for free healthcare for illegal immigrants, when instead you need to be putting first Californians who are feeling the pain of these economic and other policy impacts. Lastly, what I find as one of the most shocking results of this poll is that 24% of likely voters believe that biological males should be allowed to play in female sports. This is huge because just last week, Assembly Bill 28 was shot down in the Assembly, and this bill would have prevented men from being able to play in women's sports in schools across California. The vote wasn't even close because it voted across party lines, which means that our supermajority of Democrats in the Assembly voted down the bill instantly.
Traitor. You are a traitor.
And only Republicans voted for the bill to keep men out of women's sports. But that's insane when you realize that only 24% actually believe that men should be in women's sports. So that means that over 80% believe that they should not be, which means that over 80% believe that the bill should have passed. This sentiment isn't new. This has been growing and increasing over the past few years as this topic has been more at the forefront of the political conversation. For example, a November 2023 poll of likely voters resulted in 62% affirming the scientific fact that sex is binary, that there's only male and female. And in that poll, 28% of likely voters supported the idea of men playing in women's sports, which means it has actually dropped by 4% over the past year and a half. This is a classic example of government misrepresenting the interests of the people who they are charged with the authority to govern. Our government is supposed to listen to our interests. They're supposed to represent our values and our ideas. If voters are telling you that they don't want men in women's sports, then you should not just shoot down bills that would keep them out of women's sports as though they are ridiculous. You should listen to your voters. You should listen to the people who you were elected to represent. And when you stop listening to the people you represent, and you start passing bills or shooting down bills that are against their interests, now people are saying, that's it. We need new leadership because you're not representing our interests anymore. That's not democracy. So it's no wonder that voters are beginning to realize maybe they have more in common with Republicans than they thought. Maybe it's time for a significant change than we've seen over the past decades in our liberal state. But while the California government is proving that they are in direct opposition to the will of the voters, there is no conflict when it comes to your goal of finding a clean and effective deodorant in your skincare routine. And that is thanks to brands like Curie deodorant. Deodorants often contain aluminum, parabens, and endocrine disruptors, all things that will mess with your health, your fertility, and your search to get toxins out of your skincare routine. But Curie deodorant is different. They are formulated to be so clean that they beat the standards set in the EU while still being highly effective in fighting body odor. I know this firsthand because I use Curie deodorant every single day. They are the best brand that I have found, and trust me, I have tried a lot of different brands. And they have way more than just deodorant. They have hair oil, they have body wash, they have soap bars, so much that is clean and crunchy approved. You can shop using my discount code or my link, which are both below in the show notes, to get 10% off your order. I personally love the warm vanilla scented deodorant, but I also love their Santal Sage scent as well as their moisturizing hair oil. So you should check them out today. Use my code CurieTessAbraham, that's CURIE TessAbraham, or shop through my link below to get 10% off your order and to support the show. So, what exactly is this poll telling us? People want representation, and clearly people in California believe that their government is not representing them the way that they want. This is how you lose. Democracy demands that you listen to the will of the majority of the voters. And this is where the Trump effect comes in, because this is exactly what we just saw with the re-election of Donald Trump as president of our country. The media made it sound like such a joke or such a long shot that he would ever regain office. But the reality is that people were tired of the inflationary economic policy. They were tired of open borders and rising crime. They were tired of a president who didn't seem like he understood where he was half of the time. And so the majority of voters who were tired of these issues made their voices heard, and Donald Trump regained office. The same thing is happening across California. This is a time of reckoning for the voters who are looking at their government leaders and realizing you are not representing me and we need change. This is so exciting for conservatives because now is the time to capitalize on this momentum and to keep moving forward. This is why we don't give up the fight. This is why we don't give up and say that California is too far gone. It's just too liberal. We don't stand a chance because we have a super majority of Democrats in the Senate and in the Assembly. No, we keep pushing forward. We try to change the minds of voters. We try to show them how the direct policies of the people who they have elected have actually affected their lives. And then we see that people are waking up to this change, they want change, and we offer them better options, real solutions, and real change. So let's redo the 2024 election, but this time the state version, and let's flip California red in 2026. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I hope it was helpful for you as you navigate life in our state and that you even learned something new. You can follow me on social media at It's Tess Abraham, and I'll see you back here next time for another episode of the California Conversation.